Oh, apparently I'm live. Well, isn't that a thing? Hello. So, in the highly unlikely event you saw my last stream entitled Relearning Houdini, I guess, you may be a bit confused that I'm sat here in front of C4D. Well, I can explain that. See, it's taking a little drink of water. See, basically, Houdini's awesome, right? I've been doing a bit of Houdini recently and enjoying it thoroughly because the setup is my C4D license lapsed, and normally I have like a bit of freelance work throughout the year, which justifies me buying a C4D license, right? It doesn't take very much work to pay for the license, contrary to what some people might have you believe. But I haven't had any freelance work yet this year of the 3D variety for me to justify the cost of said C4D license. So I was like, well, I like Houdini. I don't love the cost of C4D, I'm not going to be honest, but I do like the tool very much. But also I've always wanted to get a bit more into Houdini and go beyond my general, occasionally touching it when I need a big complicated sim type thing and feeling my way through. Let's actually learn it for reals. And yeah, well, here we are back in C4D. I'm going to tell you why. So I was like, let's choose a really simple project, the kind of thing that I could probably model traditionally in a few minutes, but probably spend a decent amount of time rendering. I like doing product shots, and I like the idea of doing something a bit more photoreal, right? Haven't done anything like this in a little while. Sounds like it'd be fun. So I picked the idea of doing something based off this makeup company called Milk, because this looks very pretty and very cool. So I'm going to make one of these, or more, who knows. And I was like, let's do it in Houdini. Let's do it all procedural. It's something quite simple, so it's not too complex. I'll do the whole render setup in Houdini, and I was learning other stuff simultaneously. But the end goal was to make this, right? Cool, still with me? Great, cool, excellent. Well, here's the thing, is Houdini's a little bit obtuse, and bits of it I was really enjoying, and bits of it I really wasn't. And the main thing is around attributes, which are a huge deal in Houdini land, as far as I'm aware, but their handling is really annoying. So I was like, I wouldn't mind having a situation where, let's just get rid of this top bit, that's going to be that one there. So I've made the base of the screw part of this in C4D, in a sub D, under here. And I was like, you know, let's make this, but what if all of this stuff was powered by an attribute, right? So I can set these widths globally. Must be a really common use case, right? A really common scenario. Something that does bread and butter sort of stuff in Houdini. And I got tripped up because I found out that certain SOPs, so a surface operation, that is modeling operation, is something called SOPs, surface ops, in Houdini. Some of them don't allow directly importing. So you can call certain, let's use a text node here, why not? You can call, this is very excessive, you can call certain stuff, oh, grab my text, you can call certain stuff just by like going attribute name, right, in Houdini. When that loads, there we go. You can do this in not with a space, but you can do attribute name, so you can create an attribute, attach to something, and then call it in an input somewhere else in a different node via attribute name, right? And it'll power it by the attribute. You have to set it to a certain kind of attribute called a detail attribute, which is global. Makes sense, right? You've got an attribute that you set with a value on it, and you want to power things with that number. So in this case, if I had set like the thickness of this plastic, I could set the one for the tube part and the base part in the same time. Also, I need to do a little sort of circle here to hold the makeup, which, you know, it's like a over here in the UK got a thing called a Pritt stick. It's like a glue stick, but you twist it and it pushes out. It's like a lipstick, I guess. You can set all those values once, and then, you know, if you want to make this wider later on, it's all powered by a single value and everything just lines up. You know, really standard procedural stuff. Like, why not? Let's learn it. Because it was mostly about learning and not about doing the end result. Again, if I could have modeled this traditionally extremely quickly. But yeah, you can't do that in Houdini. So certain fields on certain ops, because of how they're built, will not allow you to call attributes in that way. And there's multiple ways to address it, either through something called vex, that's a vex expression, or it's a Houdini, I think it's called a H script expression, or you can do it in Python. And when a certain field doesn't accept a value in a certain format, you have to then go and try and Google and figure out which ones do and which ones don't, rather than being a normalized interface. And it wasn't a case of like that maybe nope out of Houdini altogether, but that's the sort of thing that's such a wild oversight in my mind, that it really annoyed me and made me not want to pursue that project any further in Houdini. Not to say it basically relegated. It wasn't a case of like I think Houdini's terrible now. That's not what I'm trying to say here. Houdini's fantastic, but what I am trying to say is, if you know anything about software engineering, right, everything is some degree. I know something just fell off the side. Everything is an abstraction, right? So this is all code, right? And you know, this is all code, and someone will write a library or do the maths to understand how the geometry gets written, and then someone abstracts that again into a thing which makes it so there's an interface in code which writes the library, and then someone abstracts it again until eventually you go up the chain until you get to the point where it becomes a thing and you click stuff and you can move it around with a mouse, right? These are all layers of abstraction away from some machine code, effectively some zeros and ones, or in most real cases C++, right, into being a product. And in terms of like the sort of hierarchy of complexity of like 3D software, C4D sits in an interesting spot, as does Houdini. They're both quite notable because there's a layer of C4D which does a lot of work for you, and takes a lot of guesswork out in order to make a thing desirable or nice happen with little effort. It's what makes it so nice and artist friendly and a really wonderful place to discover what you're doing in real time and let happy accidents happen. It's the single best feature of C4D, right? It's also kind of the worst feature of C4D, but C4D is also a much more complicated and comprehensive piece of software in a dress that looks like that, right? This layer of abstraction of, well, I can just drag something underneath a subdivision surface and it just works, or I can, you know, this sort of stuff like, well, you know, you put these two things in and it operates in order, and this is a sweep, and then I can do these things, you know, the parametric stuff. There's loads of other examples, but it's basically a nice veneer over the core of C4D, a much older application, which makes it nice. But also you can still do a lot of stuff in C4D, and it still is also very mature and very, very powerful, right? And there's always concessions with that. But C4D is at the furthest end of the spectrum where you can have someone who is just purely very artistically driven, not very technical at all, able to make really lovely stuff in 3D, because 3D on the design arty spectrum is much more technical than, say, graphic design, and graphic design is more technical than painting, you know. And then you go down the chain and you end up in engineering. Engineering is almost like design but more technical, right? And software engineering is that, but it's abstracted far away into code. It all fits together. Everything's the type of design. And Houdini is the opposite end of that spectrum, where it's extremely powerful and it trades in a lot of artist friendliness for extreme flexibility, where you could probably eventually build half of what C4D does in Houdini, right? That's what makes it so good. But using it day in, day out, and like there's this absolutism that I think is really prevalent in the way people seem to think of things at the moment, of thing that is technically on paper more gooder, that is the good, right? That is the goodest thing. In like, people will look at tools, right? They can go, well, I'll just get this thing here, it's good enough. I will get this thing here because it's the most comprehensive version, and the usability comes second, right? Sometimes it's due to money or learning or whatever, but yeah, Houdini trades in all of that artist friendliness for extreme flexibility, extreme scale, extreme performance, crazy degrees of control, and the ability to do some stuff that literally is impossible in other 3D software. I say this of Blender a lot. Everyone goes on, oh, Blender's upsetting the 3D industry. No, it's not. Houdini is, because anything any of these tools can do, Houdini can also do, and generally it can do it better than all of them. There's nothing really Blender does that other software can't really do, and a lot of things that Blender does it's kind of crappy at, right? There hasn't really got many. It's a very jack of all trades kind of application. It's like it's a fairly unspecial piece of software. Whereas Houdini is extremely special, and in a lot of ways C4D is quite special because it has an angle, right? That artist friendliness has value, and MoGraph as the unit of work has value, right? The speed of iteration in C4D is extremely fast, but you exchange that for the ability to do things at massive scales that you can do in things like Houdini, right? So that all being said, the problem I suggested a little bit earlier on about like certain attributes not working in a certain way due to how the node is compiled. Apparently what it turns out to be the reasoning is certain nodes don't actually act, they actually run a little mini sort of what's called a just-in-time compiled output, as how I understand it. And Vex is like a very small just-in-time compiled language, right? Because it runs faster than Python, because Python's very slow. Anyway, because of like a fundamental mismatch between how those two things work, some of these nodes are not able to accept those things. And that then turns it into, the C4D thing is it's extremely coherent, right? You can use most tools in the same way, and you expect the result to behave, and broadly speaking the same way. And that leads to this sort of sense of exploration. And when you're in Houdini, you have to learn individual workflows of how to achieve an individual result. You know, it's a more complicated tool set. The tools are finer, they're not as coarse, so there's more learning. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Again, not a criticism of Houdini. In fact, none of this is a criticism of Houdini. The criticism I have for Houdini is when you set the line at, there's a degree of which which I'm about to show in a minute, C4D gets much more complicated and frankly very unuser-friendly and messy, and some of the worst, it's not worst design, but like not especially fantastically designed from a user perspective, I guess. But that veneer of consistency everywhere else, it makes it more forgivable. You go, well, I've decided to do this, but I wanted to delve into something much more powerful, right? When it comes to attributes, they're so fundamental to what makes Houdini. Things like that, they make it a non-starter. It means it's too much for a pain in the ass, and it suggests too much friction. And something with such high friction already, that means I then want to re-relegate it to the scenarios, but make it a circumstantial tool once again, because like, not only do I have to understand how each individual workflow goes together to achieve something, you've got SOPs, you've got MOPS, which is a plugin which is basically like C4D, works the same way. You've got COPS, Copernicus, you've got things like Solaris, which is a layer on top of the object's node graph. Each node graph behaves differently, and you have to learn all of them. And, you know, if you're someone who isn't nodes adept, you've got that extra level of complexity on top. But then you've got the idea of attributes and the exchange of attributes down the chain on top of that, and that interface is really, really inconsistent. And it's not like a game, it's not like a game ender, but it means that you've just got this additional huge layer of thing to memorize, to understand, to internalize. Not only does it, and again, these problems are solved, some of them quite easily. The problem with what I said a minute ago about like the compatibility of attributes, that is not necessary. That's an architectural decision that they would have to relinquish. They'd have to do a bit of magic to make that. There'll be a decision. There'll be push and pull on whether or not they want the end user to remember which inputs on the many hundreds of nodes can accept attribute in one of X number of ways to, because also there's like multiple ways to pass in the value, right? So you can put it through a function, like an expression function, but they're just functions. I think it's called detail, right? So detail, and you pass in the position of the parent node, and then the second value, the second argument in that function is the name of the attribute, and the third one is another one, right? There's two different ways to write that, and there's also multiple different ways to do it, or you can, either way, it's an inconsistent interface, and it just means that you expect the end user to then, when they hit one of these things, go, oh, stop, let's try one of these three ways of doing this, on top of an already explorative, friction-filled workflow in the first place. It puts that learning curve higher than it needs to be, kind of unnecessarily. But on top of that, there's hundreds of nodes in Houdini, potentially thousands. I don't even know. There's so many nodes in Houdini, and that's a lot. That's a lot of cognitive load. And in a workflow where you want to be making art, I don't think that juice is worth the squeeze, personally. So it's not really even a criticism of Houdini. One thing it does get me is the general workflow with attributes as well is more verbose and complicated. Like, for example, there's a bunch of pre-built attributes like P and V, like velocity, position. There's a bunch of others, and they don't do a good job of even like highlighting what they are, right? And they give them very short names. There's no need in the interface for the names to be that short. So they're not very discoverable. So again, you have to memorize them, or like not memorize them, but like use it until they become memory. And there's so much to on board with. And in that way, C4D is a very different tool with much less friction. And the TLDR is, I gave up on that as an idea because the modelling was a pain in the ass, and also the rendering work is annoying, just not fun in Houdini, and it's extremely fun in C4D and nice, and again very artist driven. So I was like, well, let's just do this again, but for arbitrary reasons, let's do the whole thing using, oops, where are we? This one here, using scene nodes, because my life already wasn't difficult enough. And I don't know anything about scene. And it was just for fun, right? Like the idea. What's going on here? There we go. What's going on with this? It was like one of these things. It was like maybe my life is already. What is this button here? I don't know what that is. Let's just undock this. Undock that. Get rid of that. Why is this not full height? I don't actually know. Let's do one of that. What is going on here? Let's just go back to the default nodes workspace. There we go, and I'll rebuild that because that is arse. Anyway, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like my life's already difficult enough, but let's see, because this is a much worse node system than what's going on here? Why is my okay, let's close this down. Oh, let's just quit and open this up again. I've just been chatting bollocks this entire time. Cinema 4D. Yeah, it's a much worse node system than Houdini. It's actually, and this is one of the things where my understanding of the scene node system is it's half-baked, and it does feel half-baked, but it is still actually quite good. I'm not here to argue it's better, but I'm here to argue that it is here, and it's kind of cool, and I've been learning some stuff about it. That's working now, randomly. And yeah, instead of being on my powerful Windows desktop, I'm on a MacBook Air today, because I had to start a new C4D trial, and I only have one machine, and I did it while I was on a laptop, because I was away from home, and I regret that, because, my God, a MacBook Air is not meant to do this. I'm impressed it even works at all, let alone as well as it does. But don't mistake that for me saying it works well. It doesn't. So there's only so much you can expect. So yeah, here we are inside seeing those. And like the problem with this as well is, right, this, and I know I just spent a little while being very critical of Houdini for very similar crimes. Again, this is like this is not surface level in C4D. This is right in the guts, right? This is a system they don't even really publicize. In fact, actually, it's been relegated mostly to the creation of custom things, custom modifiers for the object outliner listing. But it's still a very useful tool. And it's still actually extremely powerful, but using it is a pain in the ass. So I'm going to continue with this. But first off, I've got to say a big thank you to a guy called something. Hang on. I'm going to open up this window off the side. I'm going to remember the YouTube channel, because like this was actually also it's worth saying out loud that discovering, so the thing of like discovering how to even get to the solution of that problem or getting the answer to this very simple idea of having a workflow where in Houdini I can like power just have a value and have it power various things in a graph. It took quite a lot of Googling and a Reddit post to start getting answers on. And again, this is, like, I'm not trying to say, the guy's called, actually wait a second, I'm going to shut up for a minute, Midlet, M-I-D-L-E-T. He did a video called Scene Nodes for Beginners, Where to Start. It's fantastic because he just talks. It's not a very well structured tutorial, but he's like, hey, here's how you do some shit. And with a system like this, it was actually pretty invaluable because he taught me the things that kept tripping me up is the thing inside Houdini you can do, which you can't in C4D, is selections in this scene node system are fucking terrible, and they're fantastic in Houdini. But yeah, so like, yeah, this is not in any way saying that I think this is a good system. I think it is a system that needs an awful lot more cooking. With some questionable stuff, and also I'm probably still making mistakes in this, who knows. And by their own admission, the Niblet person, Nablet, can't remember what the fucking name is, him, he also sort of said, he conceded that actually, let's go with this. He conceded actually, he was not necessarily qualified to say, authoritatively how the system should work, which I really appreciate as well. But anyway, here we are. So let me quickly walk you through this, because this is the shit that trips you up, right? So inside Houdini, you can interactively. So I've got, this is some bunch of very simple, and none of this is complicated. I've chosen this topic specifically because it's a really simple model, right? If I'd done this a different way, I'd have been done within 35 minutes probably doing the modeling, and spent all the subsequent time the thing that will actually take the time, which is making realistic looking makeup, which is going to be an absolute bitch. But I'm still going to get to a point where I want to use some Houdini, so I'll probably have some sort of sim or something, I think, which how I lay the scene out that contains these little makeups that utilizes Houdini in some way. Sounds quite fun, because I want to get better at Houdini still. I just don't think I'll do much modeling in Houdini unless I really needed it to be procedural, which is useful sometimes. Like I wanted to use Houdini a while ago when I was on a paid project where I was making ice lollies, right? And I ended up like a popsicle, and I ended up doing it in C4D. It worked out pretty well, and again, you can bodge stuff together in C4D really easily. That are like really good, pretty good rigs that work, but aren't like, you can do it in such a way it's quite nice because you have to spend too much time thinking about it. You can kind of make up as you go along. It's cool. And that worked really well, because if you've got something like a popsicle and you want to have render multiple of them together, they shouldn't be identical. So I had a little setup where you had like a volume mesher, and then you could actually like dynamically change the bulge at the bottom and affect how melted it was and all sort of stuff. None of it was very scientific, you know, it was just sort of like but the end result was actually really convincing, and it added enough variety where you could seed a bunch of different popsicles, and they'd all be slightly different from each other. It would vary the angle and depth the stick was placed in, the you know, that kind of shit. It was fun. It was good. It was great for that. And it's one of those things we say, like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And a lot of the times, this is the thing I really do find the most compelling about C4D is it's really good. It's imperfect at almost everything it does, but in most ways, it's pretty, at very least, pretty good. So anyway, these are the bits that trip you up, which aren't explained very well. For example, like the first thing you do here, so if we run through the order of operations, we've got a cylinder, and then we've got an inset, and just getting to the point where I could put this loop here, I was trying like a motherfucker to understand how to even do that, because they didn't make it very clear on how to make that sort of selection. You can't make interactive selections here, which I think is a miss. I think it's a huge miss. But what we've got here is, which I quite like, is select facing. So select facing basically says, like, basically select everything that's like at the extent of one of these axes. So if you do facing Y plus, then it will select everything on Y plus, and you can say add opposite, which will also do that same projection from underneath. So if I turn it opposite, it'll add a ring to both sides. See? But you can't even preview your selections, which is infuriating. So you have to say your type. You don't get an indication on the type, so points, edges, or polygons. And you get this thing called selection string. So selection strings are, I already knew about selection strings. They're annoying, so you can do stuff like, if I have like, let's just create a new scene quickly. And I'll do a, let's just do a sphere. No, so let's do a cube. And this is like, I think the problem with this was, like, they got to a point where they realized that no one was using this, because everyone's saying, it's one of these things, right? Everyone's saying, we want Houdini. And they're, oh, we'll start building Houdini. And then when they got the thing that was a bit like Houdini, they're like, oh, actually, no one wants to use this. Right, so let's just make 2, 2, 2, right? Add some divisions there. Let's just go and make sure our view is set to lines. There we go. Wonderful. And yeah, so if I make a selection, I'll show you that facing thing. So you can't preview selection. So in that same Niblet video, he has actually a little rig, which doesn't work locally at the moment, which will preview, it draws geometry and it'll preview your selections. You can't see your selections, I don't think, which is extremely annoying. So you're sort of guessing. So what I'll do is I'll do an extrude, right? There we go, an extrude, drag that onto there. And right now it's extruding everything. If I just change this to 0 for a second, so we don't have to look at it, and then we'll make a selection. We'll do a select. Should just be node selection. No, it should just be, there we go, select. Wonderful. Okay, so this is your standard select thing, and what we can do here, if you go into this and say selection string, we can just do odd, right? And if we turn this up, it will choose every other polygon, or we can do even, right? And then it will do every even polygon, or you can do all, and then it will just do, or it should at least, there we go, do all polygons, right? But also you can specify individual polygons. So if I go into here and I do options, no, it's under options, polygon indexes or indices, there we go. And then I'll just turn this back to 0 so we can see what we're doing. Again, I'm not going to lie, it feels half-baked. So yeah, if we just say, what's this, polygon 6, if I say 6 now, wrong one, if I go into here and I say 6, it should extrude, there we go, only polygon 6. Pretty straightforward. Or I can do an array by saying 6 to 9 and then click away. It'll do wherever 6, 7, 8 and 9 are, it'll do all of those, right? And that's the extent of what you've got, really. But inside so you can have this inside a select, so you can say this is like just a selection of polygons, so I can do 1 through 9 again, come into here and just do just write default, I think, or I can just delete this out and it will still do the same thing. Oh no, active, is it active or active selection? Either way, you can see how half-baked this is. There we go, it's done something. I don't know, it's done something. But yeah, it's janky. It's not great. You can see how annoying that is, right? But if we go back and I'll do another selection, I'll do select. Is it distance? No, it's face. No. What was the name of it? What was that node? It was called select facing. There we go. Select facing. There we are. Drag them in. And there we go. So we've got all the ones, and that's on X plus. We can see from our little gidget, X plus, X minus, Y plus, and it's selected those. So now our extrude is on Y plus. Nice. So that's one thing that he explained to me, or they explained. But also you can do things like loop selects, which they don't explain very well either. So I'm going to do this with, I'm going to change this cube out for a sphere, because it's going to make it a bit easier. To get your head around. Let's get rid of that. And then we'll do that. So here we go. We've got an extrude, extruding nothing. And let's say we want to do an extrude around its belly, right? So we'll come back into display, and we still on polygon indices. And if we do, this is what they didn't explain. So we've got edge point A and edge point B, and they didn't really explain how this works. But again, thank you to Niblet, whatever his name is. If I say 116, 117 in here, so I go loop select 116, 117, it's like indicate to me two things that are a loop that are next to each other and put those two values in here, right, is what it's saying. And then lo and behold, that didn't even fucking work properly. Because why would it? Let's come back to here. And if you press Q, you should. Oh no, it won't, because I'm doing this in a different way. But yeah, so if we come back into here, grab it again, there we go. So if you do, 107, so if we do 106, 107, I think what I've done wrong here, right, is I have not set this to edges. So I set it to edges. It still doesn't fucking work. Oh my god. There we go. I think now it's selected it. So there, let's extrude that edge. So if I do polygons and then polygons, it's done it in the wrong direction. So if I just go back to here, reconnect this, there we go, come back on here, and I said, so if I do 102, 103, so I do 102 to 104, right? 102 to 104, and then I will get rid of that and I will reconnect this. It should now have done the thing, and it hasn't, and you see why this is still, there we go. Don't know why it's gone that way. So it's it's chosen to go loops this way. So if I did, so maybe if I did like rings, so ring selection, and I did the same values, 102, 103, 102, 103. and then that will now should now do the correct thing, and it fucking hasn't. It just fucking hasn't. It's still gone edges, and then change this to edges, polygons, and this is edges, and then edges. Fuck, it's still going that way. Why is it doing that? Yeah, right, let's go back to here. Reconnect one more time. See, do you see why this sucks ass? And then we're like, oh, I'm back in C4D. So 102, 103, right? Then why is it going that way? Why is it going that way? If we say 101 to 104, let's try that. Let's do 101 to 104. Go to that shit. Okay, 101 to 104. And we'll put this back onto polygons, and we're going to extrude put this back onto polygons. Hi. And that's not connected, so there we go. And it's done absolutely fucking nothing. 102, and it always goes this way. It always goes that way. Can we draw? No, that's just a standard sphere. We'll just do a hemisphere. Still goes vertically. Hexahedron, so a round cube, goes horizontally. This sucks. It's just so you know. And if it doesn't a cube, it'd probably work, right? There's not 104 things on a cube, but whatever. Let's just make this like 60, 60, 60. It will do something, right? There we go. Look at that. It's done a loop. It's done a ring. If I do that, oop. If I connect that into that, there we go. Anyway, point is, yeah, it's not great. The selection tools aren't amazing. They're just annoying enough that you don't really want to use them. But that's what we're doing. We're doing some for no real reason really, other than just for fun. I would have been long since finished by now. So yeah, but either way, I've muddled my way through. So we've got this selection here. So also to note is you can just make a scene node. So unlike something like geometry nodes, which need to be attached to geometry, scene nodes are global. They can just make stuff. It's really cool. Again, the system doesn't. A lot of what it does today could be made a lot better with better UX, and also that thing with selecting the loops isn't really explained adequately anywhere. And it's such a weird vibey input. And then you pick like, I was like, oh, do I pick the beginning and end of a loop? But how does that work? So no, you pick two polys that are next to each other, which indicate the direction of the loop. And even then, it's not reliable. So, you know, annoying. Just let us have interactive selections, right? Just build and select. I don't care how much effort it is. Just build it. Anyway, yeah. So I was saying before, you can just have scene nodes create geometry from thin air. This one here, where you've got this thing called a nodes mesh. We're actually in this one. Is saying, well, I've got a node mesh, and then the output of that is here, saying this is my output geometry, and you can have more outputs here, right? Which is very, very cool. Again, it's powerful, but it's got jank, right? I can set new inputs, so I can add any number of inputs, so I can add time and tangent and all this sort of shit, right? And add arbitrary float values. So here's a solution to that, right? So if I had an arbitrary float in here, there we go. I've got an input of float, and now I've just got an input of float, and I can also then, I presumably, right? Let's go into this one here, and if I just do espresso, let's do something dumb. Let's just grab in this float value. Can I do that? Is that going to work? Input float. Wait, hang on. Nodes mesh. There we go. And then input float. Is that going to work? No, it's not user data, is it? If I go user data, add user data, and I give it a little value and call this one, I don't know, butts, and then butts is where, yeah, butts to float. I should be able to drag in butts. Hang on. Inputs. No, there we go. Inputs float is there. Why don't we drag it in? Anyway, that input of float is there. I can probably rename this. I've got butt as well. Let's also make this input butt come in. So we do view, connections, ports. Can you not bring in? Hang on. Basic properties. You can't do user. Interesting. Okay, but that's a little bit of it. That's inconsistent. That's not great. And then we'll just do output of global. I don't know. If we have an output, how would that work? Can we do this? Can we like? Anyway, doesn't actually matter that much because we could just do yeah. So we could do. Let's do it over here actually. I've not actually checked yet to see if we're supposed to be working on this. I've not checked yet to see if in fact we're going to do a node mesh nodes mesh plural. There we go. Let's just do a cube. You know, I'm a product designer, Maxon. If you want to hire me, just don't put me in a room with anyone from Redshift because I'm not very popular with Redshift. But one of them doesn't like me. Anyway, I presume he doesn't like me. I don't know. Maybe he's got better things to do with his life. I hope so. Anyway, so we've got a cube here. We've got our nodes mesh, and let's put a new input on here. So, if you're not aware, right? If I get a normal cube and I get a sphere, in fact, let's delete my node mesh for now. I'll demonstrate what I'm about to do. So you've never used Espresso before. Espresso is basically the equivalent of attributes, right? Or the attribute workflow you get inside of Houdini. So you can just hook up arbitrary shit to power other shit and build little rigs out of everything. It's one of the coolest features in C4D. It's very old. It's not new. It doesn't get enough notice really, but it's on a tag, and you just do espresso, do something. It doesn't have to be on any particular bit of geometry. It has to be on some. This is the closest the way of geometry nodes works, right? So I bring in sphere, and I bring in cube, right? And I can expose values on sphere and cube, so I can say, right, if I come into here and I can do basic properties, no coordinates, global position. There we go. Yeah, let's just do global position x. Coordinates, global position x. There we go. This node graph's very, very old, mid 2000s. And then if I go into inputs here and I go basic properties, no coordinates, global position x. See, I'm going with this. I can then do very simple stuff and say global position x equals global position y. And now if I move this around, they'll stick together. Or if I want to do some sort of maths, some math, I can do stuff like calculation. What was it? Mult. There we go. Calculate. I'm very bad at maths, but let's do this. Formula. No, what was under? I can't remember what's under. A maths thing. Logic presets is same objects. General presets. Calculations. I am being dumb. Is it under matrix? Where is the mathematics? Where's the math? Espresso, general, bool, calculate. There we go. It'll be one of these. So if we do, yeah, invert. Fuck it, do invert. So yeah, we invert that number. So we can do that and then to that, and you guess what's going to happen is, yeah, should work anyway. You can also view these values as output. So we do this, and go. Whoop. What is it? It's a integer. No, it's not. It isn't an integer, but whatever. Was it view? What was it? I can't remember what it's called. You see, I haven't used this in recent few months. View, show. Was it show? Value? I can't remember. You can visualize the output value of this anyway. But oh, there we go. Add. Hey, there we go. So we can just do x, and then we can do output there, and then if we just do integer. Well, actually no. Let's do the rest of it. Let's do it the way that I was going to show. So yeah, there's that. So we can set the global position x of that to x of that, and on the sphere itself, I can do this and go user data, add user data, which is equivalent of adding an attribute, and I can call this one like, I don't know, poo, and poo is going to be, what is this value? This is just going to be a. It's not a float. It is a float. Is it a float? I think you can set it to position. Should be a float. I mean, it's technically part of a vector, but whatever. Let's just say, no, it's a float. It is a float, isn't it? I think. Or is it? Distance? I'm not doing a very good demo, am I? Whatever. It's fine. It is. Let's just say it should be. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, if I say poo right now, and I come to here, and I just drag over poo onto output poo into the input here, and now I'm going to multiply it by poo, right? So if I say on sphere, I've now got a so click on sphere. I've now got a user data called poo, and we can see we've made some maths, right? So we've added the value of poo. Oh, if I can multiply it, hang on. Can I just do multiply? Math, can I change it? I can. Add, multiply, there we go. So if I go back onto here, sphere, and I just make it like 2, a more reasonable number, and then, yeah, I can make the x value of, cube, double the value of poo. And effectively, yeah, user data is effectively the same thing as an attribute in Houdini, right? We've set that this now on this object exists this this integer called poo. Make sense? Right. So that's Espresso, but Espresso is a separate system to scene nodes. I feel like it should be part of the same system because I'm pretty sure what I've just done is not going to work if I go back into here and I just do nodes mesh. Very weird way of calling it, but whatever. Nodes mesh, excellent. And I come into here and I make a sphere again, sphere, and press Q to hook it up. There we go. Lovely. And then now, so really, okay, so we've got this. So what I could do is, if I did a, I think what I can do is, if I do a connect, so C connect, and then I get myself another bit of geometry, and I'll just do a cube. Let's try a similar setup here, right? So I'll just drag both these in. So connect just grabs 2 bits of shit, grabs 2 bits of shit and just sticks them together. Is the very technical term. So yeah, if I just do this, and I can like, yeah, whatever. So this doesn't have a. Is that under a matrix op? Is that it? I think that's it. It is. I think. No, hang on. If I plug, there we go. Geometry up, matrix up. There we go. And then plug that into there. Delete these. Delete all these. What? And I can't plug that in now. Ugh, it's not geometry. But yeah, so if I do the matrix, I should be able to like. Will that just set? It's not. Again, it's fucking confusing. Oh, why? Why are you like this? Local transformation. This should be me being able to transform. Hang on. Transform. How do I transform? Transform geometry. There we go. That's probably better. Geometry, and then that goes out to there for now. I should be able to. There we go. They've replaced that matrix thing with transform. There's also like they changed a bunch of nodes because I think they sort of maybe released it a bit early. In a lot of ways, this is even more. That same criticism I had of Houdini is exactly true here. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I'm just being honest. But yeah, I'm doing this because I'm a masochist, basically. You know. Anyway, right. So we've got 2 bits of shit here, right? So let's try and do a similar setup as we did before. So if we do, so we just do transform. We just do math, arithmetic. There we go. And then can I set this? Yeah, I can. So if I do on geometry, if I just do a, if I go like this, input 1, I should be able to. No, I don't want the input. If I go to here and I just do add, oh, can I add outputs? I can't. Ah, okay. Well, does that? Yeah. Can I not like? No, I don't want. Can I not like output that transformation? That's really odd. You'd assume. If it's a value here, you could output the translation. I still can't. Yeah, I can put that in there. but I can't then. So I'd have to then like do the result would be X, right? And then the result for like the geometry, and I do another transform. So I just go you have to do it differently. Transform geometry, transform geometry. There you go, like that, right? And then let's say do that again. It'd be transform translation X. So yeah, if I want to, so then I have to go like input, set one there, input, add new input. Let's call it input 1. That's fine. Excellent. And then yeah, I'll do. And then I'll do that, and then I'd do another arithmetic, and that'd be that there, and I would do that into translation X. Okay, and then I would do yeah, and that'd be like plus, or no, it'd be multiplied by 2, right? So I do the same thing again, multiplied by 2. So that makes the this double, yeah, the same thing. So that's how you do that there, right? So you can, but they don't hook up together. And I think user data, well, that doesn't make, yeah, because this doesn't have user data because, well, it can, but that object, the user data on this can't live inside it. So if I do add user data and I go, same thing again, I go, poop, I've got a float called, wow, it's a floating poop. Yeah, I add poop, right? I don't think I can add input. Can I add poop? Inputs, no. That's, but then, yeah, but then also I could do stuff like, I could then power this from Expresso outside of here. So if I got, let's just do like a null, right? So this null here, and I'm going to add an Expresso on here. Expresso. I know it's espresso. I'm not a complete Philistine. Right, nodes mesh. Can that come in? That can. Null. Can that come in? That can. And then I should be able to do input, user data, poop. There we go. And then does nodes mesh have coordinates? It does. Excellent. So if I do, oh, I should flip this around actually. So yeah, if I do null and then I grab null's coordinate, let's do the same thing again. Global position X. And then just do well the output of poop actually, not the input of poop. There you go, poop out. Let's pull poop out of this, and then I'll make poop, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll do math multiply. It's great. You can see my little cogs turning and realize how much of an idiot I actually am. It's awesome. I'm like one of those pretend clever people. Right, so let me just make that 2. So yeah, now. Okay, excellent. So now, technically, the value of poop should be double that of whatever. So if I change poop now, use data, and I've got poop. Poop's a percent. What are you doing, poop? Use data, manage use data. Poop is not a float. Oh, I can't change from being a float. Okay. I should have probably... poo. Poo is the new... Oh, hang on, no, that is a float. Poop should work then. Let's not make it a percentage, let's make it a real. There we go. And then, yeah, poop should... It's not, though. Yeah, it's not, though. Weird. Yeah, poop does not affect the position of null. Well, does it? Oh wait, hang on. Go to here. Poop should make that like that, and then null is. Oh no, it does. It does. You just can't see because I don't have. Let's just do a circle so we can actually see it. There we go. That'd be useful. Right. So now if you go back to poop, we can do this. Yeah, there we go. It does work. So user data still lives, yeah, so user data lives in scene land, and then user data can't be used inside scene nodes. That feels like a... we've got two systems at odds with each other a little bit there. They both do a similar thing. I guess there might be some technical reasons why you keep them separate. I personally love Espresso. I think it's amazing. It's one of those like killer features in C4D because you make little rigs for anything. And it's got like lots of little useful nodes. This is definitely more powerful, right? This does do more. Espresso by comparison is much simpler. So there's like a bunch. I've not used it in a while. Can you tell? But yeah, you can do stuff like, or no, you can do a lot. Actually, it's not liars. The espresso does a lot. Yeah, you can convert. You can convert values. Yeah, Redshift stuff. I need to try and use more Redshift. But yeah, it's dynamic stuff. Loud work. Why has it got stuff under? I've never used thinking particles. Actually, that's not true. No, I think I have like once, years and years ago. But I think the particle system's better than thinking particles was. I don't know. There's a really common one using here for like normalizing values. I can't remember what it is. I have to open up a real file to explore that again. Anyway, that's not why we're here. None of this is why we're here. But yeah, so what have we learned is that yeah, the scene node system is extremely flawed, but fundamentally very, very cool. So like you can't do booleans, you can't do everything. So that's the thing, right? It's not the full C4D in here yet. I don't know if it ever will be at this rate, but it probably should be, because one workflow I'd love for this is my favourite. I'm just waffling, I'm not even doing anything. That's fine. So my favourite workflow at the minute inside C4D, which is probably going to run like shit on here, so we'll do a very simple one instead of something real. So if I've got a sphere and a cube, right, and then whatever, we'll leave this as, well, we'll just like up this to some number, right, and then we can do, I never do this bit, but let's do this anyway, Boolean, there we go, and then this will also, I think it also has to have a Boolean tag, I can't remember how these work, anyway. And if I do this to subtract, does it have to be parented? I can't remember. I can't remember how that works, to be honest. Anyway, you can Boolean stuff and whatever. But the workflow I like an awful lot is using volume builders to model with, right? So not only because it's fast and it's easy, and SDFs are fun, but also, I mean, it's fast in as much as well, yeah. So yeah, you can do stuff like this. So if I subtract my, oops, this way around. If I put my sphere on the top, if I put my cube underneath, there we go, sphere, and I do subtract, I've cut my sphere out, right? And then that should be perfect primitive. There we go. So yeah, I've cut my sphere out, and I've got my SDF of the result, and I can affect whatever. I can also do smooth. It's a lovely way to work, because also like there's imperfection in so not all models need to be perfect. Things have problems with them, right? Geometry can have problems, and having perfect geometry isn't always necessarily desirable, even with like the product stuff I like doing. I think what elevates them slightly beyond being quite good to being very good is those imperfections, right? Like adding fingerprints to stuff, adding dust, adding less dust and fewer fingerprints than you think you need, but also flaws in manufacturing. No objects are made perfect, right? So even when I don't need to be doing this, sometimes I really do this anyway, because the end result is more unpredictable, which I quite like. And yeah, if I could do this, but in nodes, because this is kind of sucks, right? So if I've got a volume builder, and then like I change the order here, in my volume builder doesn't change, right? So my sphere is on top here. If I move my cube to the top, oops, it won't change the order in this. Also, I've got an SDF smooth here. Annoying, right? Because also I can do an SDF smooth outside here and bring this in. It'll add a second SDF smooth as an object, but then, and they both work identically, but now if I can just smooth this object and not smooth my sphere. But yeah, they don't stay in sync, which is annoying. I would love to do this in the node graph. That'd be sick, because then also I could like, again, it's something very good in Houdini, because this workflow also exists in Houdini, where it is just better. In some ways, it's more long-winded. It's too many clicks, I think, in Houdini. This is fast to do it this way, but if you have bigger objects, it can get annoying. And then when I'm done, you can go into here and you can do a volume mesher, drag that into the volume mesher, there we go, and now it's turned into a mesh. Give it a second, and then this might shit its pants because I am on a MacBook Air. We'll do a remesh, and we can pipe this into Z remesher. It's going to go a bit slowly, and there we go. Press C to commit to that, and then we've got a really lovely remesh. And see that little flaw, that little dent there? you know. And you can there's a lot. It's very interactive, and also like on a faster computer, like my Windows desktop. It's yeah, it's a really nice way to work. Actually, I really like it, and you end up with surprisingly not perfect, but surprisingly decent geometry. And also Z Remesher is the best. So although the same guy, I don't know why it is, but the same guy has I can't remember the another application. It's all got the same name. It's called Quad Remesher, and I think from what I understand is the same guy who wrote both. He's probably sitting on a bunch of money because he wrote it as a plugin for ZBrush, and then it got integrated into ZBrush. So Pixlogic must have given him some money, and then I'm not sure he got paid again when. I don't know what the nature of that deal would be, but he probably got paid something again to like Maxon, or maybe not. Maybe he sold the. I don't know the ins and outs, but I don't even really care. Point is, this is the best version, although he made Quad Remesher subsequently, so I'm not sure. They might have diverged, I guess. Maybe he sold the rights to Pixlogic and they carried on working on it or something. I'm not a massive ZBrush user, so I don't know the history. But either way, it works amazingly well, and this remesher is way better than the one in Houdini. As much, again, like, it's such a fun little workflow. You know, I don't think you can visualize, or can you? I'm not sure if you can visualize. Anyway, I like doing this, and again, even when I'm like modeling traditionally, I might also do this at the end anyway, just for shits and giggles, because it adds sort of like fun little wrinkles. So I come to sphere, right, and I can do stuff like so a little we'll do a little displacer. There we go, a little displacer on this cube, and then where's my displacer, and then we'll do there we go, shading, thank you, noise, there we go. We can do stuff like this. Look at that, isn't that fun? So this is like really fun interactive procedural modelling stuff inside C4D. It's pretty great. And yeah, all this is now getting piped interactively into a remesh. This is actually already, press C. It's a mesh. It's a lovely mesh. You know, and then also like there's a scene stuff in C4D I love, so I can then go, let's just try and remember how this fucking works. Layers, thank you. Add a layer, call this one shit I don't want. And then this can also be inside layer, add to layer, shit I don't want. And then if I just turn off all of these, boop, 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 it's gone. Because I've turned off shit I don't want from whatever. Layers in C4D are super mega cool. I love them. I love them so much. Although both disappeared, didn't they? And that's not in the layer. Oh no, that worked fine. Weird bug. But yeah, C4D is imperfect software, but for just doing stuff interactively. Again, you get like people. I've seen the scene those referred to as Houdini Light, but the whole of C4D is Houdini Light. But also like very artsy driven Houdini Light, because you can do artsy stuff very quickly in C4D, which is, you know, a load of fun. Let's get this, and we'll change from a standard into a hexahedron because they are nature's most fun shape. Go back into this thing, and I'll turn off perfect primitive, and then it's now a wobbly sphere. Look at that, wonderful, wonderful wobbly sphere. Sphere. There we go. And then just remesh, and then we've got our perfect wobbly sphere cut out of our thing, and we have whatever the fuck this is. Some of the world's least appetizing cheese, I guess. But yeah, if they could do this in scene nodes, that'd be insane. Or the boolean, I've forgotten how new booleans can work, but it's a little bit clunky because it works through tags. Tags themselves are not perfect in C4D as a workflow. There's a lot of things that probably shouldn't be tags. Like, you know, I'm trying to be very fair here. Let's do this. So if I like do, there's some bits where C4D is a little bit too friendly for its own good. So if I just create this sphere and I say like, let's come to here, and I want like another bit of annoyance is you can't do selections in these modes. You have to go to the select tool, whatever. And then yeah, if I say like I want a material, so let's just create one. Let's just do like whatever that is, matte. I can drag that on there and I'll create a material selection tag, which I can call polygon selection tag. I'll of course one like, I don't know, shit that is white, like dog poo in the 70s, And on here, let's make this one red, and I can like do another one, and I can go back into here and make a different selection and be like, oh no, hang on, selection tool, there we go, make a new selection, drag this over, make a second tag, and this one, let's make like, this is, oh that's called shit, that's white, let's make this like green, right, blue or whatever, and that has not worked. Shit, that is white. That's just no, there are some polygons in there. Why has it not worked? Oh, because there we go. Oh, fuck off. There we go. Shit, that's white, and then that'll work again now. Wonderful. It's because I renamed it after the fact, which broke it, which is also not perfect. So yeah, like, how do I know? Right. Which one of these? I think you can do like a view and then just do unfold all. No, hang on. Layers? No, it's not layers. There's a way. I think there's a way to stay vertical tags. And that's it. View. Vertical tags. Yeah, and it will then do. Here are my tags inside sphere, which is kind of better in a way, but it's still not perfect. Tags aren't tags are not perfect. Conceptually perfect at all, but you know, whatever. So yeah, we've got UVW and it adds these automatically. There's so many tags in C4D. There's like dozens of them, maybe hundreds, I don't know, a shitload, and they do too much. Like, for example, like if I want to lock an object's position, I can do it with layers, I think layers let me do that. So we're going to layer, and I've got one on course one, like, I don't know, locked. So lock things are locked, and I put this into the layer of locked. This is wonderful, by the way. I love the layer system in C4D. It's just like very, oh yeah, it does work. But yeah, the other way to do it is, how do I get this out of here now? Let's unlock that. Okay, so we'll even let you take it out of the layer. Huh. That's actually pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, layers are great. You ain't gonna see me ever being upset about layers. You can make layers children of layers as well. Layers are great, as is the scene system and the text system, and just general material management is also fantastic nowadays. Anyway, but yeah, like, oh yeah, so the other way is like, yeah, you do a protection tag. So I come to here and I right click and I do protection, and it's like a rigging tag called protection, and that's also the equivalent of having a lock, right? So now I can't move this around because it's got protection tag on it, right? In fact, now I've got vertical tags on, I might just keep vertical tags, to be honest. Although it makes it less glanceable. Vertical tags. Yeah, so yeah, see again, C4D is like this world of contrast. Anyway, let's go back to the painful bit. That's an hour and 2 minutes of me just talking bollocks. That's good. Going back to makeup node C4D, where we started. So yeah, anyway, the selections are not great. We've selected a loop, then I've done an extrusion, so I pulled that bit in, then I've done another inset. So in here, it will take whatever your last selection is, right? So if I do a loop selection, it will then pipe out that explicitly pipe out that selection as part of my next action, but then that gets lost, I think. So no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So if I do extrude inset, it's until I reset that. So where I had that thing saying default, right? I think that's basically saying like whatever was selected before this point, just use that. And if I change this from inset from default to all, it'd obviously do something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, second inset, so I'm creating a new loop. Selection string is default, and on some of these selections, you can do this thing called store. So if I call this one like top of thing, right? Just do top of twist, right? And then I can refer to that by that name later on, but otherwise it will default to whatever's the select. So if I did selection string insert, let's just do one more example of this. So we'll just do a cube. Excellent. And if I do a just standard select, no, let's just do, yeah, let's do select. There it is. Drop that in. I'll give this a couple more divisions. 2, 2, 2. There we go. And then this is not viewing the way I want it to. There we go. Okay, yeah. So if we just select, and I'll select like 1 through 2, and then I'll do a extrude. Oh, extrude. Why not? It's all about extrudes today. There we go. We're extruding 1 and 2, and then later, I've done a bunch of other shit. I can then say, like, inside the select, I can... Oh, I chose the only one that doesn't give it a name. If I do a... let's just do select facing. Select facing. There we go. Wham that in there. I'm going to get rid of this cube because it's boring, and I'll do a cylinder instead because it's probably better. Cylinder. Let's do a torus. Torus. There we go. Nice and fun. Wonderful. There we go. Lovely. So yeah, now there we go. It's got a selection. Select facing, and I'm doing whatever. So I can do, like, let's do Y plus. It will do this little crown of donut segments, and let's just do use islands to make it one strong donut segment. And yeah, I can call this. Let's do this actually. Dave. Let's call it Dave. Why not? So then if I do a bunch of other shit, whatever I'm going to do, I can then just do let's just do like a bevel. Yeah, fine, polygon bevel. And although it's going to default, if I just do all, that's going to do all of it, right? But then also what I could do is, I could do this in quotes and just do Dave. It's going to look the same, but trust me, it's doing something different. So yeah, there's that. So I can call that selection anytime I want, or like if I've got a different select. So I do select facing, and I'll duplicate this select facing, right? And this select facing, this is probably better demonstrating it. This, for instance, called Pete, Dave, and Pete, and this select facing is on Y, right? And this bevel, I can say yeah, it's beveling Dave, but now I can change to Pete, and it should now bevel Pete instead. There we go. And once again, use islands because whoever wants that off by default, I have no idea. But yeah, you can save selections like that. I'm not doing that in this. Again, I'm keeping it simple. And if I sound at all like I know what I'm doing with this, I don't. Seriously, I don't. So anyway, another extrude, inset, one more ring again, and then I'm doing another extrude, and then inset again, and it just takes the results. There we go. And then I'm building off of each previous action, right? And I'm doing another select facing, and in my mind, so this is now Y minus. I'm selecting the bottom. A second, I don't. Let's blow my nose quickly. Yeah, done another select facing. I've done another inset. And now, in my mind, this is a separate series of modeling actions, and it's not a case of like it's still the same geometry, right? It's still me doing stuff to a tube. This is not exactly difficult modeling stuff to be doing. Yeah, but then like I'm doing another lip selection, I'm doing another extrude, and I'm bringing this inside to give it a little lip, and I'm doing another select facing, which really I should have. I don't know why I've done that actually. Probably could have just done the inset and then given this. Anyway, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing now. Hang on. Oh, okay, yeah. So actually, let's just remove that one. We can go back a step. So if we do this select facing, and then we do it called top of twist, and then if I go back here, that's probably a better one. Select facing. So I've got another select facing here, and I'm doing this. Hang on, where is it? Extrude, select. I don't know. That's Y minus. Select facing. That's another Y plus. So I can get rid of that one, and I can do this one and call it one top. Oh, top of twist. And then that should have done the same thing, but it hasn't. It's of course one, I don't know. Top. Maybe it doesn't like the underscores. Who knows? I've got another select facing, And then this inset here, I'm just going to call that one top. Top, top, top. It's only not fucking worked. Fuck you then, fuck you. Anyway. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, this is me putting in these like sort of control rings, I guess. So you can do like manual crease. Actually, can you do that with? No, you can't. I don't think. I've never really done that actually in C4D. I don't know. But either way, a lot of instead of like doing manual crease control, a lot of the time I put in like control geometry. If the geometry, because I don't do game stuff, so geometry count doesn't really matter for me. So putting an extra ring or two in or whatever for subdivision surface stuff is fine, right? So I just put another ring, which constrains the way, you know, how the sub D will pinch this and makes the radius a little bit tighter with this. So if I get rid of this inset, see, it loosens up versus that, but it tightens up. Basic polygon selection tag top of twist. Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Anyway, yeah, so another select facing, what I'm doing again, yeah, that's that one, and I've got another loop selection, and where did I stop? What loop did I select? I think I was having problems with this. Where are you? There you are. And then I'm doing a bevel of some description. What did I do? I mean, that's done something. I think I've added another one to do something other, I don't know. Anyway, that's where we're up to. And I remember having problems with something. Yeah, so going back to this, branched. So this is earlier. And I was like, what is the right way to do this, right? So we've got the same piece of geometry. And in my mind, that second thing, when I'm starting to work on the bottom, I would want a separate channel, I guess, for... And I could do this a bunch of different ways. I could just make this a group. No, I can't actually. No, not in this case. I could have made a group, or I think you can put like backdrop nodes in here. I think that's a thing. But yeah, I can do a group. I could group this into whatever. Of course, like bottom, right? But me splitting this off into a separate stream, yeah, you can get into problems with this, right? So like if this relies on geometry where it doesn't make sense anymore, I get kind of why this didn't work. But also, it's like I'd love to know: is there a way to make this something kind of like this work? Where like, is the result here just selections and operations, or is it producing geometry, right? So in Houdini world, right, you can say you can do merge. So what I did earlier with that other one, I had the connector to merge together two bits of geometry underneath one thing in the objects manager. Interesting. This is me playing around. I did this on a train earlier today. Yeah. Anyway. So that was my branched example. I thought I'd keep that around to remember what I did. But yeah, so here's like a long series of like, here's just a bunch of modeling procedures, right? Simple stuff. So now we're up to speed. Only an hour and 12 minutes took me to get back to doing something. So yeah, right now we've got a separate set of threads. I'm trying to think how this would work. So I've got my my second node mesh, which is going to be this cap, which is what I was working on. There we go. I've got myself up to speed. This is where I was having problems. Right, so what I'm going to do first off, I'm going to close this because there's no change in here that matters. So let's do this again. Make up nodes. There we go. So we'll go to my node setup. This one's broken. Yeah, weird how broken that is. And then I will continue with this. So I was having problems here with selections. As we've demonstrated, selections are bad. So if I do loop selection, so I can do this the same way, right? So what I need to do here in this one, if we see over here, is I'm going to come in, put a little step in here. I might make this a pop lid rather than a screw lid. I'm not sure, which will look more interesting. Maybe another screw thread, and then so on and so forth until I add the stuff inside. So I need a little circle around here, and presumably we have a screw thread inside here. As you twist this, it will actuate a thread on the inside of a plunger part in here, pushing the makeup through the thing. Well, that's how a Pritt stick works. I'm just going to suggest that, right? So I don't need to build all of those internals. I'll just do a disc, right, for this thread to disappear into, and I'll have more greebles and stuff inside here to make it look more plausibly like a real product. I'm not doing this one for one. I'm making it similar. Actually, one thing I just noticed as well is on here, there's a way in which this is attached. So that'll be like there'll be a way in which that's attached which I need to account for as well actually, so I need to do some more work on that. Fun. That's cool. I can do that in a bit. We'll see how it looks towards the end. That might be a detail I'll put in later and do a bit of look dev in between. Because really it's not about making it plausibly a physically working thing. Well, no it is, but like not... I have to go into excruciating detail. I'm not doing CAD, right? It doesn't have to physically actually work. It's just to kind of look like it does. Just at a glance, so you go, oh, that's an actual product shot, not a 3D render, right? So you've got to go far enough. So... Anyway, yeah, so what I want to do, right, select this top ring here, bring this up, step it in, and bring the rest of this to the top, and then that's basically that shape done, right? And then run another thread around it. And what I showed you earlier, with the sort of like point cloud remeshy guy, I'll do that. I'll mesh it into one object, and then allow the remesh to put in, you know, the mistakes in that remesh process are nice ones, the ones I like. They'll put in some nice natural manufacturing defects for me. But I was having a problem with this. So if I just do what I was doing previously, and I'm doing facing, so select facing, wham that in there like that, right? So now if I do Y plus, I should have now selected everything on here, so we can confirm that. If I go into view lines, and then we should see, if I do an extrude, so extrude, we will see a new layer of shit. There we go. So that has worked. Cool. Wonderful. So, but what I actually want to do is do an inset, right? So I do inset. Don't worry, I didn't do this in the first place, but whatever. Inset, and there we go. We've got an extra ring here. So what I would do is, right, I'd set whatever the thickness of my plastic is, and then I will grab both of these rings, bring these up, and then the second ring, the inner one, I would bring up further. So the first thing I'll do is I would make this a little less wide. So it means that this outer part gets thicker, like so. And then that sets the depth of that step, if that makes sense. So I want to select both of these loops. So let's just grab this loop select. And then what we'll do is go to display, no, options even. And then we'll do polygon indexes. Okay, and I need to select two loops. Let's do 284 to 286. So that'll be my first one. And then we'll see if that works. Okay, so we'll do 284 to 286. I really don't like this system, but whatever. And then to test it, we'll just do an extrude. And the lack of visibility on what you're doing is just crazy. And then yeah, there we go. It's gone bananas. So if we go to edges, that, and let's just turn off this. Options, polygon indexes. There we go. That's worked. Excellent. No, it hasn't. It's done the wrong fucking row. So go back to here, and then let's just go into that again. So polygon indexes. I did 284, 286, 284, 286, right? So it's done the next one across. So if I do, yeah, so that's just done the middle one. So I want to do both of these, right? So really, I want to do a second loop selection, like that. And then this one would be 62, 66, 62 to 66 Q, and that should have done both, but it fucking hasn't. It's only done the middle one again. And this is very annoying. Edges. So yeah. So do we try with a ring select? So let's try that ring selection. Let's just open this up. I don't think this actually works. Let's give it a go. This is this edge. This is this who's it? This one, this visualize selection guy. Let's see if I can make this work, because this should help me out. So if I just do geometry and then result. Okay, and then ring selection. Oh, selection type. Selection type should be polys. Yeah, polys, edges, points, fine. And then my geometry, and then I should be. Okay. So I don't do one. this work? Yeah. Okay, and then yeah, that should show my selection, right? So if I just do paste that back in again, so I don't need to do. I think they've improved upon it. Okay, and then just do Q, ring selection to there, edges, and that's visualized. Nothing. What's that? Vertex color tag. Has that added a vertex? It has. Oh, okay. Fun. Fun. So ring selection, if I do 0 to 1, so always polygons shows nothing, edges, right? So if I do that and I go back to here in options and then just do polygon indexes, click that again, right? And I've done, so I did whatever, so let's do 350 352. So if I do 350 352 and then that's doesn't work. Right, so what we'll do is we'll go with a loop. This is really confusing. These selections are so confusing and bad. Geometry. Okay, and then we'll select that again and we'll just try it again. So we'll just do 70 320, right? Or 78 70. Let's do 70 78 70. I'm not sure if they need to be lower numbers. What is that selected? What's the selection? Yes, polygons. It's polygon selection, and that appears to have selected nothing. Oh, man. So 1530. So I do 1530. So let's do 150 142. Let's try that. 150 142. And let's turn it to edges. Maybe it should be an edge selection. Edge. And that has selected, once again, selected nothing. Cool. Love that. Polygons, and then no edges. Ah, that's set to edges. Loop, and then that's edges, and that has that has that draws nothing. Polygon. So I'll do 30 34. 30 34. And then that should successfully. Oh, hang on. Yeah, 30. Yeah. What's that? That's polygons. Yeah. So. Oh, I don't know, man. I mean. Oi vey. 278 280, right? Let's try that again. 278 280. That edges. Okay, 280, 282, 280, 282. It doesn't shift over to the other row. Why is that? Okay, maybe we need to look at edge boys, point indices, turn off polygon indexes, and then we'll just do 51, 50. So we'll just edges. We'll do 51 edges, 51 to 55 edges. Okay, so then that extrudes along normal. So that seems to, well, I mean, it's not really done, is it? I would love to know why it's like that. So loop selection, change back to polygons, and that breaks. So if we do 43, 43, 47, 43, 43, 47, there's definitely something I'm missing here. Because then 43, okay, so that's then, and then that also goes to the 19, 15, no, 16. Again, it makes it even worse the fact you can't visualize these selections, because then I'm always selecting the shit in the middle, and I don't know why. 191. So if I go, that's 191 there, right? And that's going to change that value. 191 is going to become something else. It's going to become fucking nothing. That's what it's going to become. What? What the chuff? What the chuffer beans? I'm having a horrible time. And the thing about it is, all of this is completely unnecessary. I don't need to be doing this. But, you know, it's how we learn. It's how we learn. There might be like other selections I'm not aware of. Geo selection, loop, modulo, noise. Is that remove selection? Let's do that. Let's do remove selection, right? And then we'll do no. We'll go like this, right? So that'll be remove selection. There we go. Excellent. Cool. Remove. Anyway, that won't work. We'll extrude, because I was like, maybe this resets the current selection to nothing. But again, this system's so like hard to read, to like reason about. It's difficult. It's really difficult, because yeah, like I can only so maybe there's a way of just adding a loop, just a single loop, right? And then I can do it again, you know? So instead of going like, let's just do an inset, because I would always do it that way, right? That's, if I was modeling this from scratch, that's probably how I'd do this. So instead of doing an inset, what would be another way of doing an inset, right? So let's think about this. Is it under geo modifiers? Geo modifiers, align normal. I know, like you know, like split the thing, or you know, like a poke probably won't do it. No, it won't. But options inside poke, that's still fun though, right? Okay, geo modifier. Hang on, let's just do Discord. I'm going to bring that. Oh, that's my Intuos window. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. And then it went into streamer mode. That's useful. So I'm going to quickly put a shout out on the Pixel Fondue thing. Give me 1 minute. Oh look, that's this channel. Let's just mute that quickly. Let's mute that. There we go. Just so we can't hear that guy speak. That guy's cringe. I hate him. And then we're going to post this on there, and we'll see if anyone wants to jump on and you know, shoot the poo. I am doing a wee stream on using scene nodes. Anyone wanna jump in? Feel free. Having a little bit of selection confusion at the moment. Wonderful. Okay. I have 2 viewers. Yeah, so what would be another way of doing that, right? So if we go back to my nodes setup. Yeah, so selecting facing will select this top loop, right? This top thing. So what would be another way without doing an inset to add, just adding a loop to that, right? So that would be under geo modifiers. Oh shit. Let's do it like that. Yeah. So geo modifiers. We could like pin this somewhere. That'd be useful. Geo modifier. Yeah, so poke won't do it. Polygon bevel will not do it also. Split won't do it. Straight edge, just subdivide. Does that just do like Catmull Clark style subdivision, or does that do like regular like decimation style subdivision? Oh, okay, that's actually done exactly what I wanted it to. Okay, that's fun. That's cool, but I can't really set its position. That only splits that in half. Which is not ideal. But all you can do is up the number of subdivisions. Smooth, doesn't matter. Okay, well that's not really the correct answer, but that is some sort of answer. But then what I could do actually, if I just do, let's see if this actually work though. See, select loop selection, do that. Okie dokie, and then go into here, and then we'll just grab this. So we do 489 381. So 489 381. Okay, and then we'll do a, would that work? Transform. So can I just like slide? No. Transform. So if I do transform geometry or geometry resize, let's grab both those out. Let's do transform geometry first. So will that work? If I want to slide that loop, does that mean that if I slide that loop, will that mean that that loop will, no, that won't. That will just affect the yeah, that doesn't take the selection. Oops, selection string, loop selection doesn't have a name. If I just do active selection, I think that's a thing. No, okay, fine. Edges, and that's also set to edges, and then oh, hello. So wonderful, right? Edges, and then I can't really slide it. I can If I do scale, what happens if I do? I can do shear. Transform. That ain't gonna work, is it? Okay. What is that gonna do? I can rotate it. So that is okay. So if I do active selection, that will actually do that. It doesn't have slide. Does it slide? Slide? No. Geometry resize, maybe. Maybe it'll do geometry resize. But yeah, the selection workflow in this is just shit. Oh, well that just does that. Okay, well that's not. That also isn't any use. So I can use the subdivide to create the loop, but I can't slide that loop. So if I do this, alignment, what does that do? Direction, orientation. I do. I'm not good enough at maths for this kind of shit. Geometry. Will there be like a? Let's just see what I have to try and do this. Geospline. That'd be interesting. Can I loft in here? Can I loft myself a little guy? I mean, I could do this a janky way and then just create 3 sets of geometry, but that's not really in the spirit of things, is it? I don't learn it. I mean, I could just, if I was doing that, I could, and this means I have to boolean together or whatever. I could just, you know, there's any number of ways that I could make this just happen. I could just model it. I'd have been done hours ago, many hours ago. So that's not the point, is it? So let's just try and figure this out. That's why we're here, isn't it? So inset's not the one. Optimize, no, that does. Partition doesn't do it. Bevel won't do it. Quad remesh. Oh, you can quad remesh inside here. No way. You can't like volume voxel fill. Huh. There needs to be so much more education on this, I think. But then also, the trying to make the loop selection work the way I wanted it to was not working the way I wanted it to, so that's not very useful. And you don't get inline help for these either, which is not my favourite. Going back to what I was saying about like would I recommend C4D nodes, the scene nodes? Kind of. Yeah, it's they do some stuff. I mean, yeah, kind of. They are definitely not as good as. There's part of it which I find easy to get my head around than scene nodes in Blender, sort of. But I haven't had that much time in scene nodes in Blender, or geometry nodes, sorry, in Blender. So. But anyway, yeah, so let's do a little. I'm in the max on help. Let's do a search. So we'll do a loop selection, and there should be an example. An example file. Okay, yeah, loop selection. This function corresponds to the well-known loop selection tool. A selection is automatically created along a specified edge direction. In this way, that's not. You can tell that wasn't written by a native English speaker. In this way, you can quickly create selections of points, edges, or polygons that run around or follow an edge. Existing active selections are retained in the geometry. Not useful. So, and they've not updated the screenshots. And the thing is also, it's worth noting that generally speaking, the docs of C4D are actually pretty excellent. They're superb, to be honest. Amongst my faves. So yeah, loop selection is equivalent function to the tool, same name, and selects contiguous strips of polygons, edges, points on geometry. So we'll download this, and then what I'll do is I will just go like this as a list, date added, and then we'll just do this. Okay, so we've got a loop selection, and he's chosen. Let's just see what he's doing here. So we'll go to. Hang on. Why can I see? Why can I see a selection? C4D. Are you playing silly buggers? Why? Hold on. I'm going to here, and I'm going to this. Going to edge. Does this show me the selected fucking edge? Q, tube, subdivide, loop select. Motherfucker, it does do something. Alright, that's an interesting looking number. Anyway, so yeah, it's got two loop selections, so it's doing 10, 11. So if I do this plane, it shows me nothing. Loop selection, that's polygons, that's showing me nothing. And second loop, and then now that selection's gone. What the actual fudgies? So options, we'll just go polygon indexes, select this again. That's not displaying, weirdly. Why isn't it? I don't know. Okay, and then options, points indexes, and I see nothing. So 117138, I can't actually fucking see. Can't see the geometry down here. Okay, maybe no, we don't need an object to select it. So, but let's do this anyway. So we'll just do nodes mesh. We'll come out. We'll deselect that. No, let's go back. Node. So mode C. I'm going to copy all of this apart from the geometry up. And we'll just do nodes mesh. There we go. And then we'll just paste that in. And then we'll just do this. And put that into geometry. There we go. Deselect everything. Oh no, my fan ran out of battery. 1 second. It's all very high tech, this. Ah, there we go. Okay. Alright, let's flip that mouse up. And then we're going to here, we're going to here. Okay. No, nodes mesh, there we go, thank you. So nodes mesh, with this selected, let's go back into 5. So in our object mode, so loop selection is polygons, let's go there. And it's not fucking displaying any fucking shit. Okay, that's over here. Great, cool. Display options, showing both those fucking things, but why? Views. Great. So I've got my example file that's not showing me the selections, display options, showing me fucking nothing. Cool. Love that. Love that. That's great. But this is showing me shit. Oh. Okay. So let's just turn it off for a second. So we'll just turn off the point indexes. So yeah, we've got a little subdivide there, right? That's goes in, but then we have no control over it. So if we get rid of that subdivide, get rid of that. Right, select facing, and then we'll just do oh, hang on. No, because then I have to do some mathsy bits. So just do inset, add points to spline. That's a fun one. So yeah, the inset's working, right? But then we go full circle because when we do the inset, I can't then select this inner loop for reasons fucking unknown to science. That becomes impossible for me to do. Let's demonstrate one more time. Polygon indexes, that's also not fucking showing. Get rid of that. There we go. We don't want. There we go. Polygon indexes. There we go. So if we do 246, 250, and then just yeah, I'll do my extrude again. Extrude again. That same thing is like the path to whose it's is whatever. So active selection. Yeah. Active selection remains this for now, right? So that is the inset. So then I'll just do another loop selection. Okay, and then we'll just come back into here once more, and then we will get rid of this. So we'll just look at this, and then we'll just do 370, 368. 370, 368. And where this gets confusing is I can't even save this out as a selection, or can I? Anyway, active selection, and there we go. Reconnect that, and then that doesn't fucking work. Oh, it doesn't fucking work. So so if I do 370, 376, 370, 376. Okay, right. Key. No. So if I do right, okay, all right. That never fucking selects the thing it's supposed to. Never selects the thing it's supposed to. Painful. That's what it is. It's painful. So yeah, that's my conundrum, right? For reasons unknown, given the way explained to me previously, that I can't recreate here because for some reason this is not showing me any points or any of that bullshit, or vertex or anything really for that matter. Let's go into standard, and then yeah, we still don't get any options. Yeah, we didn't get to see fucking anything because you know what, fuck you. Basically, is what it says. So that was useless. Let's go back to the docs quickly, and we'll see what the docs say to us. So loop selection, yeah, it's very. So yeah, geo selection. Let's read through this. It doesn't explain anything about the ideas of selection. Newly created. This function lets you output specific elements of geometry that were added via editing. For this, an old version of geometry must be input into the node. Such bare bones. So this function lets you output specific elements of a geometry that were added via editing. For this, an old version of the geometry must be input into the node. So if I do just the newly created shit, right, which would be all three in this case, I imagine, or all three sets of these polygons, because I think the index has changed enough. But let's just bear with the process. Do that, and then we'll just do, if this still exists, newly created. Grab that, round that down there. There we go. So that's new, and this. And then this is old. New geometry. And that's in some way broken. Right. Okay. Would that be after that extrude? I guess. Is that how that would work? Oh. Okay. The worst bit is if I just press C and then just do one loop and just do UL and then whatever, I'll be done. But that's not the nature of the task, is it? Is it? It's not, is it? Please. It's not. It's not. I know it's not. I mean, select facing. Let's select our top. Let's go. So let's do the. Let's go back a little bit. Can I undo far enough to get back to my... I'll have to redo it. My setup with the scale. Subdivide. Yeah, fine. That's good enough. Right, so... subdivide loop selection, transform geometry Q. Okay, so I can... local X, Y, Z global. So I can just do... transform position... transform scale. So let's just do 0.9. Let's turn this off so we can see better what we're doing. Okay, 0.9, 0.9. That does something. What that's done. Hello. Okay. All right. So can we do scale, Bueller, transform geometry, scale. That's the same. It's the same. It's the same thing. Okay. Pivot. Bounding box. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, go with that. Use selection bounding box. Can that do anything? Let me just do this. And then also check. Oh, okay, that does make it right. So transform S. Position, rotation, scale. Right. Yeah. Cool. Got there. That's why they put me on the big bucks. So oh, I wish they put me on the big bucks. And then, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So if we that's maddening. Let's go to ProPen 2. It's forgotten entirely that my right click is supposed to be middle click on there. There we go. Wonderful. Right. Is that working? It's fucking not. Okay, well, anyway. So let's do it the old fashioned way. And then top. Let's just turn that shit off. There we go. Right. Can't see anything. Let's just do view. Better. Right, so okay, 0.9. Am I doing it? Am I doing it in the slowest, dumbest way ever in history? I might be. Bounding box. Okay, let's just. I can't. I mean. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's working. Why are you doing this? Transform. Well, actually, no. What? Is that Y? No, that's not. That's Y. Okay, so 0.2 in Y. That's not what I wanted. 0 in Y puts it below there. So I do 0.1 in Y is almost it. Oh. So that loop worked ish. Okay, so we've achieved something. We've achieved something. We've achieved something. So yeah. So in a way, right, you think about it, that newly created thing. So if I've got pre-subdivide, right, this didn't exist. So if I did, so if I do newly created, right, like that, okay, old is going to be this, and then new is going to be this, right? That's not really quite it. That's something. And then I could just like do a extrude, right? Extrude on there. Is that how that works? No. You silence. Okay. Okay. Alright. So yeah, then I don't know how to merge the yeah the yeah, because I don't know how to merge the geometry back together. Right, so select facing. This function enables the automatic selection of polygons whose normals point in a specific direction. Tolerances can also be specified. Tolerances can also be specified. So, right, so if this is at a slight angle, right, I could do, again, I'm not, it's one of those very difficult things where you're like, am I learning? Am I improving? What am I doing? But if I do a select facing, I'm like, I'm like, you know, I'm like bodging. I'm not doing this in productive ways. Y plus. And tolerance, can I just like reduce that tolerance? I can. Okay. And opposite. No, not that. Over there. Annoyingly, I can only select the outer part, which is not what I want. It's the complete opposite of what I want. So the idea was if like the angle is you know, like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So if I change this a little bit, so if I change that to like whatever, see, and then I get a thing happening. I think this whole thing's fucking cursed. To be honest with you. Oh my. Alright, so no, forget that. Good idea, me, but no, it was no, shit idea, let's be honest, shit idea. Edge break, right. Within a specific section of the room, the space selected is a percentage based on the bounding box, i.e. the polygon selected on a plane which is extruded. The selection is 50% of the width and depth of the bounding box. That won't work either, because I think it wouldn't work on circles. Edge break, loop selection we've looked at. Modulo is not useful, but let's read it anyway. Fuck it, we're here. Noise, we know what that's going to do. Border, that's not going to work. Ring selection, that's the same as loop, but that's, as we established, already a bit broken. And yeah, so I think what's happening here is they're adding double. That's that T, right? So the idea of this is going to be, we made this T by doing that loop and that loop, and the example as downloaded doesn't even work, so that's not good. Modulo, there we go. It's mathsy. I ain't good at maths. Edge break can select edge point based on an angle to adjacent face. Ah, that's interesting. Let's try that. Again, we're not really we're keeping to the spirit of the challenge by doing it procedurally, but we're doing it if this does work, it will be extraordinarily done, basically. That is also not actually doing much. Keep. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do here is, because like where I've adjusted the angle of the normals of these faces, right, but with my janky transform thing, see? I'm assuming that if I can choose the correct angle just through fucking guesswork, then okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what. Oh, hello. Oh, well, that's. I mean, no. Is that something? Is that a thing? That's nothing. Okay. What am I missing here? I blatantly don't know what I'm doing. But there will be a way around this. I need to watch more of those videos. Right, so noise selection, board selection, ring selection, we know what it's going to do. Select, we don't want to do that because that's just selecting individual polygons, and that is admitting defeat on a level that I'm not ready for. And also, like, for what I'm doing, I'm not doing arbitrary things. I'm working on like symmetrical. I'm working on this is a tube. I'm trying to extrude a loop from a tube. Why is this not working? Save selection, we know what that does, but save selection, right? Oh, grow selection. Oh, hang on, grow. This function corresponds with the classic zooming in on an active selection. What does that mean? Okay. Shrink. So okay. All right. So if we do, let's get rid of edge break because that's just batshit bananas, and we'll get rid of that as well. And then if we do, so we've got the loop selection is doing both. So if we do shrink selection, what even is this? What even is this? What are we doing? What are we doing here? You know what I mean? It's so confusing. So yeah, that was not going to work. So here you go. You can save selection of points edge under a given name. With an active selection, though, the selection will be activated using a signed name to apply a modeling function that owns the selection. So that's kind of what when you. But then the thing that's confusing is when we select via inset, right, or make these selections, it's selecting the incorrect thing. So is it just a bug? Is that all that is? Could it just be a bug? I don't know. So yeah, because if we go in here, we're going to go to options, and then we'll turn polygon indexes back on, right? And we want this inner ring. But actually, let's go back because we don't. This whole subdivide idea is not really a goer. So let's just do this the way we were doing before, and we'll just do an inset like that. Boop, and then we've got 2 rings here, and this gives us all the control we need to set where we want these 2 to be, right? So let's just bring this in, okay, and then we've got the width of the plastic as we desire it to be, being this one here, and then we've got the inner one here, this 283, right? Just 286. So yeah, we want to do 286, 288, right? To select this loop, okay. So we'll do a loop select. I know I've done this about 1,000 times, and every time it doesn't work, but maybe this time it will, because there's that famous saying: keep trying the same thing over and over again to no avail, and it will definitely work eventually. You know, that's exactly how that saying goes. 286 to 288. We can't visualize selection, which is arse, and then we'll do an extrude, and it won't work. So we'll go extrude, and it'll extrude the one in the middle. No, it didn't even do that. It did something weirder. That's great. That's great. Thanks. Change this to edges, and it will do the incorrect edge. But actually, it's done something even weirder because that looks like it's between. Yeah, it's just on the outer edge of the wrong loop. And do polygons, it selects the entirely wrong thing. So if we go and create ourselves a new loop, so let's make sure these indexes have not changed, right? So we're going to here anyway, we'll visualize this, and we'll look at this, and we'll see, go in here. Oh, wrong bit. Wrong bit. We're going to this one here. Node mesh. There we go. And then we'll look at here. So yeah, if we do 7074, that probably won't work. But we'll do, look, so here we go. We've got 284, 28. So 284, 286, 288. They go up in twos. 286, 287. Right? Because then they go the wrong way. So it goes 28, and then this jumps the gun in some weird way. Because also actually we are doing that's fine. Okay, so this jumps the gun. So we got so we go 280, 281 runs this way. So if I do 280, 282, it might assume I'm doing a loop all the way around and then back to here. So if I do a ring, again, I don't think it's going to work. Ring selection, we'll get rid of that loop selection. And if I do 280, oh shit, 280 to was it 282? Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Yeah, 280 to 282. 282. Then my extrude does fucking nothing. Hi. This is what's confusing. And I change it to edges, and then it will do something weird. There we go. Change to polygons. and it will do the wrong fucking thing again. It's changing it to polygons, and then yeah, look, it still selects in the wrong direction. It still selects in the wrong direction. Yeah. If we look at here again, we should have something. Do that. 280, 281, and it jumps across to 50, and then we've got 51 down there for some reason, and then 49. What that is, I don't know. So yeah, come back to here. So actually, okay, so is that how that visualizes it? So if we see here, right, we go into here, we just do display, options, okay, so this will show what the previous selection is. Insert, there we go, ring selection, this will show us our selection, so it's a, So does this mean that's like these are the only polygons available? So if I go do this, select facing, should just do, why is that like that then? Hang on. So I go here and do that, right? Yeah, it will show me all of these polygons, right? Do this, it will show me all of these polygons, right? Go to insert, it will only show me the ones inside. And ring selection, still, there we go. It does visualize selection if you have it set to the mode of the selection you've got, rather than, so I do object mode, it will show all of it. Do this, it will show me, so does this show me ultimately what's available to me? But why wouldn't these be available, right? So if I just do default, and if I do active selection, what if I do all, what would that break? That breaks the, okay, that does the inset and ignores, that'll also the inset, and it'll apply it to the side as well, which is a bit janky, but whatever. But then it still only shows me these polygons. So these are the ones created as a result of this thing. So if I do a ring select, that's still, oops, there we go. That's still 5, 3. So yeah. So for some reason, let's just do this, right? And then we do 5, 3, 6, 5, 3, 6 to 5, 3, 8. Go out to polygon. It's still. Oh man, it still does that. Why is it so? Yeah. That's the real question here. Is it a bug, or is it user error, or is it both? Both these things are possible. Either way, it'll do that. Or worst case, or best case scenario, it will select only the loop in the middle. Yeah, because what? Okay, quickly, let's get rid of that, and we'll just do a select. Right, we're not going to do it this way because I think if this doesn't work, then I'll have to speak to someone or admit defeat, I guess. So if I just feed it a handful, right? So I just do I'll feed a handful of geometry. So I'll do 5. What's this? 5, 2, 4, 2. I'll do 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 6, and 5, 2, 8, and I'll also do 4, 6, just for no reason. Just because it sounds interesting. And then, see, that works exactly as you'd expect. It has extruded the polygons as provided, but I can't do, so if I went and did like, so go back to the selection, get rid of 4, 6, right, and that will then go, yeah. And then if I did, what did odd? which then grabs that outer ring. Obviously, we can ignore this bit, but yeah, it's not going to do it. So okay, all right. So target hidden selection. I know what that means. Start facing. Just do active selection. There we go. There we go. Just like nothing happened. Right. So yeah, because then if I can't do it. Like I can't do that. I can't do that. Ring. So yeah, the ring selection doesn't work. Right. There's no other information under here. Remove selection. That just removes them by name, so that's not useful. Transfer selection. Select with different elements are given the geometry and converted with each other. For example, starting from a selected point, you can automatically select all polygons that use that point. We convert a polygon selection to an edge selection. That's also not useful. None of these selections are... The reality is, like, there's either a bug here or I'm definitely missing something in the minutiae of, like, what you pass into the previous selection. I think what I might do is... I might have to go back and spend a bit of time watching some more videos and seeing if there's something, some secret sauce thing I'm missing. Otherwise, I think what I'll do, I'll throw in the towel and I'll just model that bit traditionally, because I've been here for 2 hours and 11 minutes, although I spent ages of that talking shit. I could have done the whole job of this probably in those 11 minutes left over, let alone the 2 hours. So I'm going to cut my stream off there, and yeah, that's it. Goodbye, and have a nice evening, or morning, or whatever time it is where you are, and goodbye.